What is up, Jabronis? JJ back here with, yes, Spread is there. A little bit of a surprise guest this morning. Spread, you're up early for a West Coaster. What say you with kind of being up this early?
Oh man, I've been going to bed real early, fighting off a little sickness right now. But I'm up and I'm excited to start talking some tennis. So can't wait. I mean, I was really surprised to see Naomi win last night or lose last night. But you got to give credit to Leylah Fernandez because I mean she won that match. It wasn't like Naomi just gave it to her. So we had a lot of fun watching that one last night. And then I turned in a little early.
Yeah, no, I can't blame you. And I know that's Susie's girl. Actually, both of them are Susie's girls, right? She loves us soccer too, but and Fernandez too. She loves them both. That must have been fun watching. What's up, Danny Terlansky, Matt? Yeah, so obviously a fun slate here. I figured we change it up a bit, right? I know that there's a bunch of college football games on today, but it's a bunch of teams' first games. So a lot of that, as you guys know, it's perspective, right? And it's really he said, she said, as far as how you're going to get data. Kind of sucked for me to drop that college football players today with 3 shots inside the 3-yard line. But, it's just been kind of par for the course. So we'll change it up a bit, do tennis today. And plus, we're running out of these types of videos, Brett. I mean, we probably got one total week left of these kind of videos, basically until January. So I'm interested in to get your perspective on a lot of these matches. I have a few bets I like, which I'm interested in your perspective as well. So I guess we could just dive on in, right? 11 a.m. Eastern, Matteo Berrettini versus Ivashka. So here's an interesting thing. Now, these two met in Wimbledon, and I mean, by now, Spread, I'm a correlated line guy. I'd like to see what lines were at one point and how they correlate later on to kind of find what we can call value if we assume at one point in time the previous line was correct. So these two meet at Wimbledon. Do you remember what that line was, Spread?
I do not.
So Berrettini was minus 800. And I know that coming into that match, Berrettini had been looking very good on grass at the time, and Ivashka was kind of like a borderline unknown. He was still coming, rising up the ranks and starting to play some bigger matches, and he has a big serve too. This time around, though, this line is a lot shorter, like 4 times shorter. And I know, Berrettini hasn't looked like his prime form, especially in this venue yet. But Ivashka, he's starting to really take out some big dudes. The fact that Barty dropped a set to Mutet was interesting. Charlie I don't look at as much anyway. I mean, Charlie's got the big serve, but his fitness levels haven't really been there. Sangren, I don't look at that as a big win for Ivashka. And Popsapil. Look, let's be honest. This dude hasn't dropped a set in like 7 matches. So I get it, but do you think this line's moved a bit too far? Because think about it. The line was literally plus 600 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that has to do with questions of Berrettini's fitness, though. We saw that he wasn't 100% in Cincinnati when he lost to FAA in the second round there. And I was disappointed. I was actually on Berrettini in that match, but you watch the match and he's not 100% physically. And I think that's being baked into the line here. Then you have a player in Ivashka who, like you said, just came off the win in Winston-Salem. Impressive wins too. PCB, great hard quarter, Rusevori, and then Michael Muir in the final here. I think that they've done a great job of adjusting the line to where it should be, and I think that Ivashka is actually a pretty live dog here today.
Now, does it scare you at all knowing that from a ceiling basement type of odds thing that this is probably as low of odds you're going to get on Berrettini in this type of match?
Not necessarily. Like I said, he just doesn't seem to be 100% to me. And then he got through the first 2 matches, but Chardy and Mute, I think Ivashka is going to be a level up here. So I can understand why people do like him as a dog. You might have a good point, though. If you are going to play a dog, right? Number 8 in the world versus number 53, maybe you should be getting a little more on the underdog side.
Yeah, and I'm not against chalky dogs or if a lot of people like Ivashka today, but more or less just implying that from a numbers perspective, I would want to play Ivashka when he's what his numbers were at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Granted, he got spanked at Wimbledon, but you were getting a healthier Berrettini there. It's a good point, though, on health, right? But how much does that mean towards the line, right? Does it mean, 600 cents towards the line? Because that's what this line's saying or indicating at minimum.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think it's fair to say we'll both avoid this match. Moving on. So Oscar Otte, or is it Ate?
Yeah, I say Ate, but I don't know. I mean, you watch it, and depending on who the announcers are, they all say it different. So
Yeah, because it's all. I mean, it's like I always love when people make fun of how people pronounce some of these players' names because we've said this before, spread. Like in different countries, they pronounce certain vowels different. They pronounce certain letters different. Some letters are almost like invisible in pronunciations as well, depending your country. So there's not like a lot of wrong ways, but granted, I'm sure that the players have their way to. Like Swiatek's a perfect example. Depending your country, you could pronounce it differently, and even she's admitted to the fact that this is how I pronounce it, but I understand that other countries pronounce it differently. Swiatek. But either way, so Andrea Seppi and Oscar. So one thing I like about Ate is he's typically an over machine. Now, of course, that came back to bite me when he 3-0'd as an underdog in his last match. Look, Seppi, if one thing about him, he's got an above average serve for sure. I've liked what I've seen from Ate here thus far in this tournament. And I've liked, I mean, if you remember, he was the one that gave Sasha Zverev a run. Was that at the French? Where he took him to 5 sets early in that tournament?
yeah, I think it was. Let me double check. Yeah, 5 sets in at the French Open.
He's got he is a much better player than his ranking at 144. He just seems to be one of those guys that doesn't get up for the matches he should be getting up for. I'd argue this is one of those matches. Now I know that this is the Open. You would figure why would he want to let down here? He's just I like watching him because he's got a severe amount of talent, and then he's got he's almost that word I like to use, mercurial. He's got that type of talent. He's not like an emotional firecracker. He doesn't get too fired up or the other way around. But this match here, to me, I would love to play him in this spot, even at 130. The problem for me is I've watched enough of him play, and he's not a kid. He's been in the ranks for a while now, where he just doesn't seem to get up for these types of matches for whatever reason. Well, any thoughts on here? I do think this has some over potential, but now it's super vigged up to 38.5 minus 120. You basically need 4 sets with a potential tiebreaker. Well, what are your thoughts here, Spread?
Yeah, I mean, it's Seppi's the better player, but his form is absolutely terrible. Into the run-up to the U.S. Open, he only won 1 match in the whole hardcourt season, and that was against Uchiyama in Washington. Not necessarily the best victory. He lost to the aforementioned Ivashka, Dominic Kepfer, FAA, and Frantangelo, and Bolt. So he's got, a nice win over Fuchsovitz here, and then he beat Hubi Hurkacz, who I rate pretty highly. So maybe he's finally finding his form. But I don't know. I'm surprised to see Ate, a guy who had to qualify here, is the favorite. I'll probably stay away from this one as well.
Yeah, because I think that's more of to me, to be honest, and I'd argue there's some if this pushes a little further with some late steam, I'd almost want to fade my guy. I mean, I love Ate, but I mean he wins a few big matches and now he's $130. To me, it doesn't. Not a lot of it makes sense to me. But again, if the line moves a little further, I'd probably look to fade Ate here, even though he's my boy. All right, so Novak and Nishikori, as you know, Spread. Nishikori, one of my favorite players. Just a guy who I've loved going up the ranks earlier. 2016, 2017 was where I'd consider him. It was somewhere around there. I think was when he got up to top 5 or top 7 in the world. Mm-hmm. But of course, fitness levels have been a bit of a concern for him recently, and it's a Novak match, so I'll just stay away. There's a lot of good matches to bet today. I don't know why you'd want to target this one where you're basically targeting Novak's motivation to 3-0 him. But do you think Nishikori has a chance to really bother him at all? It just kind of seems like what happened with the last tournament at Wimbledon, where Novak dropped a set to a kid in the first round and then went on to not drop a set until the semifinals or quarterfinals. What do you think here? I just typically avoid Novak matches, but any thoughts?
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think if you really want to get involved, plus 9.5, I think would be worth a look. Kei Nishikori, I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with. The way that Novak's improved his serve, it just makes him just so tough to beat. Already the best returner in the game for the past 4 years. But the fact that he's developed his serve to this level really makes it hard. I wonder if Key's going to get some break chances. But 9.5 is just so much. It's just so much to try and lay here. I don't see there's any way you could go the minus 9.5. So plus 9.5, I do believe would be worth a look. But I don't know, fading the very best tennis player in the world right now, it's not really something I'm looking to get involved with.
Does it concern you that Nishikori's likely not going to get a lot of free points on his serve?
Yeah, that's going to be the issue. Novak is just going to it's going to be really hard for him to keep up on the holding. But at the same time, like you said, you're almost capping Novak's motivation. Is he going to go for double breaks or not? I mean, he might just get an early break and then just cruise his way through here. So, plus 9.5 is a little bit tempting, but I'm not going to pull the trigger.
Okay, we can move on to the next match, which I actually have as a best bet for myself. Gael Monfils versus Jannik Sinner. So, look, I like the dog here, plus 146 FanDuel. I know that there's various different prices around if you shop. 146 probably on the higher side. That's a FanDuel, but again, I know DK is like 135. I think BetMGM is like 140. Yeah, so we were briefly discussing this before the show, Spread and I, and for me, once you take out Washington for Sinner, which I know you really can't take out that venue, but he was practically flawless in that venue.
Mm-hmm.
But even there, he beat a few good guys, but he also had, that tournament had a bit of a softer schedule to it. I know he beat Korda Rusevori early on, but then, Brooksby, not that Brooksby's a pushover either, but it was a final for him, and Stevie Johnson as well. But, then he loses to Duckworth and he loses to Isner. Those aren't bad losses, but then he drops a set in both matches to Purcell, and I guess that's Vajda. I mean, is that what even – the guy's like 700, right?
Yeah, it's like the first time I'd watched him play.
Yeah, so I just feel like – and again, it's always hard to cap like motivation, right? In a match like that, a player like Sinner might use a match like that to just kind of work on some kinks in his game because he probably knows in the back of his mind, I'm not going to lose this game or lose this match. So it's hard to kind of, and I watched parts of that match and he looked good. He showed an awful lot of break points though for a player that always playing. That kind of scares me because Monfils, the big thing with him is his fitness levels, and I've really liked what I've seen from him fitness wise. And his girls Svitolina's looked really good as well. So it's kind of like that double motivation for them to just kind of both carry on here. Stevie Johnson is by no means a pushover. He's clearly not what he once was, but he's not a pushover. And I just thought Monfils served really well. I thought he didn't show a lot to Stevie. I think he won like 80% of his first serves. He got a lot of first serves in, moved well. Look, we know Sinner hits hard. We know Sinner's got a decent serve, and of course moves really well. But to me, this is a fitness thing, and I think Monfils has looked the part. And he shouldn't be this big of a dog. I got Sinner at about $135 here, so I'll take the extra 30 cents in my favor with Monfils. What do you think, Spread?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think one thing that you mentioned that can't be underlooked is the Svitolina influence and where they are in a great place mentally, because Monfils has always had the talent, right? I mean, he's always been a top 5, top 10 talent that doesn't always put his best effort out there, right? Then he gets with Svitolina, who on the WTA side is basically the epitome of a grinder, right? I mean, she's one of the hardest working players on tour, never question her fitness levels. I've never really seen her tank a match or give up, right? I mean, she's just a fighter, right? And you see this coming together here. And with Monfils being in this great place mentally, right? Normally you would say, well, Sinner's going to be the more talented player on the court almost every time. I don't know if that's necessarily the case against Gael. I mean, Gael is such a talented player. He's finally in the right place mentally. At this price, I have to agree with you. I think you're making a great play.
Awesome. Yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is a match you like. Mm-hmm. Some good CLV, as the cool kids say. Brooksby versus Karatsev. What do you think, Spread?
Yeah, so Karatsev, right? Early in the year, really made a name for himself. Huge run, and just burst onto the scene, right? I think that, number one, he's not used to playing this much tennis, right? And you'll see this a lot of times with players that make a breakout, right? And then all of a sudden, they're not just playing 1 or 2 matches. They're playing huge amounts of high-level tennis. And then towards the end of the year, especially their first year, their breakout year, the results kind of start to regress, right? We've seen that here with Karatsev, losing in the Olympics to Chardy, who we talked about early. That's not necessarily a great loss. Losing to Khachanov in Toronto, that's not that bad. Selick in Cincinnati, I guess not that bad. But still, we got a guy in Jensen Brooksby. This guy, if you want to feel comfortable putting your money on a guy, Brooksby never gives up. I mean, after that first break tiebreak against Fritz in the last round, Brooksby really, could have packed it in. He could have really just used that as a way to turn it around. The guy never gives up. He's just a grinder. He's just a great player to back here with your money. I really like Jensen Brooksby here because I think that Karatsev's value has been inflated by his early season run, and in this late season, we're not seeing those same results that we saw earlier.
And I think it goes also without saying, spread, that Brooksby's an above average returner. Like you look at him, you see his size and you see the serve, and you're thinking, oh, well, this dude's probably one of those serve bots. But you watch him play, and the dude's a really good returner, especially for a young age. And I think that'll prove critical here. But I like the look. I know that we had an earlier price from yesterday or 2 days ago that you had up there, but I'm just trying to look for a current market number on him, or at least the best market number I could find.
Minus 123 right now on Bookmaker.
All right, that might be the best number that I have. Let me just check real quick. I know FanDuel usually has these numbers at least fairly decent compared to the market anyway. Yeah, 122 FanDuel, so not much better, but a little bit. All right, so we can move on. Is that 122? Okay. Next match up will be Riley Opelka and Basil. I'll leave it at that. So for me, I'm actually going to like a two-teamer here with Opelka and a player on the ladies' end, which we'll go into when I get there. For me, this is purely about Opelka's form as of late. And I know Basil has looked really good in this tournament. He's actually knocked off Korda, but we're not sure Korda was 100% healthy. He didn't look hurt until actually he ended up retiring. But, he was clearly dealing with something. Cressy Cressy's got a big serve, but Cressy can't, for whatever reason, seem to get out of the challenger ranking area. So it's hard to kind of play that into what it is. And believe it or not, Basil didn't really do a lot of damage on that serve. He had a few opportunities that he took advantage of. So the score is the 3-0 is a little misleading because the match was a little closer than that score indicates. But on the other end, so Opelka here, he 3-0's Quantity, 3-0's Musetti, a bunch of aces versus Musetti, but we discussed briefly, spread that. I watched that match. It was more Musetti kind of guessing on serves and guessing wrong an awful lot. That was really why I felt that he was able to pile up aces. But for me, the big thing, spread, is Riley Opelka's first serve percentages. These numbers have gone way up recently. So I don't know if it's been a change in strategy from him. He's not serving that much slower, but I am starting to see a lot of kickers out wide at 120 plus. I am starting to see fewer of those 135 bombs, 136 bombs. So to me, he's taken a little off to get more first serves in, and it's proved extremely fruitful on his end. He's also moving a lot better. If you've watched his matches, his fitness levels to me are like night and day. I'm not sure what his training regimen's been, but he's been really good. He's not giving up on points as quickly. He's been very content to move around the court. I just feel like he's really taken the next step in his game, and I don't think this price says it enough. I'm gonna tag him with a player on the women's end that I like. But what are your thoughts on this match, Brett?
Yeah, I did the same thing as well. I do have him in a parlay, and I completely agree with you. Originally I was looking at laying the games minus 3.5. It seems a little bit tempting here, but a 7-6, 7-6, 7-6 win, or you lose one tiebreaker and you just might not get there. So I decided to just play it safe and put him in a parlay as well. But I agree with you. I mean, Opelka's like the evolved version of John Isner because he's got the great serve, but his return game is just so much better. And I think that he actually is America's best hope, in the next couple of years to win a Grand Slam. Now, I mean, with the level of the top 5 players, I don't know if he will jump in there. But if there was a player that I would bet on to be the next American to win, right now I would say that Opelka has the best chance to do it.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough. Like when I used to watch Opelka, call it 6 months, 8 months ago, even before COVID and whatnot. Yes, he's an above-average server for his size, or always was, and he's gotten even better at that. And again, to me, when I used to watch him, his biggest issue was he basically had that one service game in every set where you're like, I mean, what are we doing? Second serves, double faults. And now he just he's getting first serves in, and it makes a big difference for a guy like him with the serve he has to not show many break points. Has been a huge improvement, and a lot of that comes off of that first serve, getting those first serves in, which he's been this tournament to date, 70% first serves in. I think that overall, I like it to continue. And that's what he was doing in the venue. I believe that was Toronto, where he was just his first serve percentage for the whole tournament was like 68%, which a guy like him, that's unbelievable. So either way, yeah, I liked him tagged in a with a chick on the other end, and we'll get into that. So Shapovalov and Harris, this is an interesting line to me, spread, and I'm definitely interested in your thoughts here because Shapovalov, it literally has like top 3 player in the world talent. I mean, you watch him play, he's a lefty. He has a very, very deceptively fast serve, and especially since he can hit that at multiple angles. Excellent forehand. You watch him play sometimes and you're like, wow, like how is this guy only in the top 10? And then sometimes you watch him play and you're like, what is going on? And the same thing could be said for Harris, who has elevated his game recently. He loves the hard courts with the big serve. And look, he beat Khachanov, a few days ago as well. My thing is, to me personally, his price is too cheap. When you talk about what you can get from these two players typically and their ceilings, if you will, Shapovalov's ceiling is a lot bigger than what this line should be. Now, I know he lost to Harris not too long ago. In March, I think, or whatever.
Yeah, in Dubai. Yeah.
But to me, that's irrelevant here. To me, it's a pricing thing, and I like Shapovalov. I thought about tagging him with Opelka. I just don't like doing that back-to-back match thing with favorites. Not that it's relevant, but to me it is to a certain extent. But I do think Shapovalov's price is too cheap. I don't want to lay the games just because Lloyd Harris's serve is so good. I'm not sure how long it'll take Shapovalov to try to get really a good hold of it on these courts. But yeah, to me, call it a strong lean. Shapovalov minus the games. I think it's 3.5 minus the games. We'll call that a strong lead for me. And I don't typically like to lay men favorites like that with spreads. But I think you're just getting value there, but with Shapovalov's upside.
Yeah. The reason you're getting value is Shapovalov hasn't really done much in the build-up to this tournament, right? Lost in the first round of Toronto. That was to Tiafoe, but like you said, talent-wise, I mean, he should have been able to win that match. Then he lost it to Benoit Paire, so it's another interesting one, Paire, right? Because when he decides to play, he can be one of the best in the world, but it doesn't happen very often here. But then you look at Harris, he had a nice little run at Washington, even beating Rafael Nadal. Then in Toronto, he made it third rounds, losing to Riley Opelka, who we talked about earlier. Cincinnati lost to Zverev, so we don't really dock that loss against him too much. And then he beat Khachanov to open this tournament here, which I thought was a good win. And then a nice win over Escobedo as well. So I think that is depressing the price on Shapovalov. But the issue is, and the reason why, same deal, right? When I was looking for parlay partner for that Opelka piece I wanted, I don't know if I can trust Shapovalov if Harris can keep this close, right? I mean, we've seen him kind of mentally break down and just start making bad decisions in really tight matches. He's really, to me, like a front runner, and that's why when he does play well, it is just so beautiful. But certain times when he does get put to the test, he starts making bad decisions. He gets a little too aggressive. Trying to end points too early, trying to end points from too far behind the baseline, and you can see him to start to press. So that's why I was fine leaving him here. But it's almost like the match we talked about earlier with Berrettini and Ivashka. It's results over talent over recent form. So because Harris has been playing so well, I mean, the win over Nadal already just boosted him so much in people's eyes. And then to beat Khachanov here too. I can see why this price is where it's at. Probably a little bit of value, but I don't feel bad leaving that on the table.
Yeah, I mean, Shapovalov reminds me a lot of my girl Muchova. I think they both have a tremendous amount of weapons to use anywhere around the court. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you watch their matches and you're like, they're just not using the proper weapon in that moment. And you see that a lot with both those players. But either way, it's just super fun to watch. Shapovalov, if you're in front of television today, he's a super fun dude to watch play tennis because a lot of it is just like, wow, in many rallies and points. All right, so last match here. Sasha Zverev, Jack Sock. Look, Jack Sock, super good dude. We know AP loves him. Kind enough to sign an autograph for AP's kids. And look, what's not to like about him, right? I mean, he moved up the ranks a lot in 2017 and then just kind of began to tank. Ran into some injuries, got married, I believe, as well. Not that that's correlated. It might be. But anyway, he's trying to make it back up into the ranks, and he's looked good here thus far. Probably a bit too much out of his element here, though. Versus Sasha, it's going to be a complete stay away spot for me. What do you think, Spread?
Yeah, I mean, this line is pretty big, and it's for a reason. On the money line, Alexander Zverev is minus 2,500, minus 8.5 there. Um, I guess if you want to get involved with Sock, you could grab the plus 8.5 and just hope that he serves it to get you there. But with the way that Zverev returns, I wouldn't be surprised if Zverev did break him enough times. And this has been really interesting here now with Zverev. Supposedly he was going to be the villain, public enemy number one, right? With Ben Rothenberg dropping all the case and the charges against him, right? And then Tsitsipas goes to the bathroom a couple times, and this is all now forgotten. And Zverev's kind of getting a free pass. And as a guy that has struggled with outside conditions hampering his tennis, I think it's pretty cool that he's been able to sneak under the radar. That is, if you are a Zverev backer. I know, I don't want to really delve too much into this and say it's pretty cool what he did, but for his tennis, he's been able to kind of slide under the radar. But it has bothered him before. Remember when he was playing bad in 2020? It was because he had broke up with his manager, and there had been accusations of embezzling money and a lot of things, and it really tanked his game. So obviously, with these allegations hanging over his head, it'll be interesting to see how he continues now that, like, Tsitsipas, who became the new villain just because he went to the bathroom a couple times, see if the negative attention shifts back to him. I'm fine staying away from this match. Did you have a lean? If you were going to play the spread, would you grab the 8.5? Whenever I see those huge spreads, I always just want to grab them.
If you put a gun to my head, I would bet the match under the number.
Oh, so that would be basically like laying the 8.5 then, right?
Yeah, they're very similar. Yeah, because Sock's not going to 3-0 him. So yeah,
29.5 there.
Yeah, it's super low, but to me, it's hard to imagine. Look, again, you go back to motivation with these types of spreads. I mean, it's hard to imagine though Zverev wouldn't be motivated to just get this match over with fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
All right, so we can slide over to the ladies, and we're going to rely more on you for this stuff spread.
All right,
you love the ladies and it has, and I do too. I just haven't been following it as much as I've been following the ATP these days. My girl though, Queen Bianca Andreescu, greet Minnen. Now, this line's a bit thick. I'll be honest, because Minnen's looked, from my understanding, because I've seen a few Bianca matches where I haven't felt she's looked amazing. She's been winning though. Minnen's looked pretty good here. This line seems a bit thick. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this was the one that I actually ended up pairing with Opelka on a nice little personal parlay here. It's just the talent discrepancy is just ridiculous. Even if Bianca's only playing 80% for best tennis, Bianca has the better serve, better ground strokes, more variety, ability to switch between offense and defense. Greet Minnen is a nice player, but let's be honest, she's just a double specialist that is trying to make her way into this world of singles. Now, we have seen a different quote-unquote double specialist take over the tennis world there in Krejcikova, right? So we can't completely discount her, but when you're dealing with a player on the level of Andreescu, I think it's pretty safe to go ahead and put her in a parlay. Another thing to mention, Andreescu's never lost at the U.S. Open. She's now 9-0 because she's either withdrawn before the tournament or won the tournament. So has yet to lose at Flushing Meadows.
That's incredible. And look, you know Bianca's game. You brought up a good point. I mean, it's night and day, apples and oranges, if you will, between these two players. I personally just think the line's a little inflated, but inflated in the sense of laying games, not inflated in the sense of her losing. So I do like that you're going to pair it that way with Opelka. All right.
Well,
so
I think they did that too because a lot of people are doing what I'm doing and just parlaying her, right? So that's why I think that money line. I mean, yeah, I'm seeing a minus 333 right now. I don't know what I bet it at last night. I don't know if it'll keep me where it was, but
yeah, I'm seeing 360 now.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, actually went down a little. It was minus 345 when I did it yesterday, so I guess Greek took a little bit of money there.
And it was lighter like an hour ago, which I think you're just getting some late Bianca steam because that match starts in 30 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so Petra Kvitova versus Maria Sakkari. I call this from my end a semi-lean for Sakkari, who I feel just played much better talent up to date in this venue. And I know Kvitova's looked good for going back a while now. And look, she's an 11th ranked player in the world. She just had to find herself some form recently. But she looked good in Cincy. She's looked good here. Sakkari's played better players though in this tournament and really just kind of whipped them around. these are two players that really don't lose to nobodies, and they're not playing nobodies here, obviously going up against each other. I kind of like Sakkari in this spot at the number. Since they have it as a pick 'em, I think she should be favored here. But what are your thoughts, Spread?
Yeah, I'm going opposite here. I think that Petrick really got lucky here drawing an early morning match. Because she's one that definitely struggles in the heat. She gets to get on court nice and early, and I think that's definitely to her advantage. I think that if this match was set, to start at, 4:30 or 5:30 p.m. out there, I would switch it because I would think that that would allow Sakkari's fitness to shine through. But being able to play in the conditions that are more favorable to Petra, the cooler, earlier environment, I do like Petra here to go ahead and get the victory. They did play at the Australian Open, and Petra was able to win there. And just, Sakkari's another one that I do worry about. I mean, I've watched her so many times just fail to serve out sets. I mean, she'll be so good until, it's 5-4, she's serving, she's ready to close it out, and then all of a sudden the first serve percentage goes from like 74 to like 17. So I just trust Petra a little more in the big moments here. I like Petra Kvitova.
Yeah, can't blame you. It's nice to have a little differences of opinion too. So can't blame you at all there, Spread. All right. So Belinda Bencic, Jessie Pegula. Yeah. I mean, to me, this is as much of a coin flip as you can get.
I was just going to say that.
I know that Belinda has taken some steam here at $1.40, so maybe I'd argue for some value on Jessie, but this will be a stay away spot for me. I mean, unless like Jessie moved up to like $1.25, $1.30, I don't want 15 cents of value here on Jessie. But look, Belinda's been super good recently. But what say you about the spread?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking too. This is about as coin flip as a match as you can get. I personally looked at this match for a little while. I thought it was really hard to find an edge. Belinda's form has just been fantastic. I know that she does prefer the quicker hard courts here more in general, but still, these courts suit her quite well. It's not like I think that the Pegula would actually be helped more by the courts being quicker. Pegula's beat Potapova and Misaki Doi so far. So, Potapova's, she's a player with a lot of talent, but it's not there that mentally. She's only 18 or 19, so, don't want to write her off yet, but she's still learning how to compete and put her talent to good use. And Misaki Doi is a player that she can't trouble some people, but if you have some power, you can hit her off the court, and that's exactly what Pegula did. Benches started off with wins over Roos and Trevisan, which, once again, wasn't that impressive, but, you look at her Olympic run, and then you look at her Cincinnati run, where she beat Vondrasova, Rogers, Muhova, before falling to Teichmann, who was in fantastic form. You got to say that Belinda's coming in great form. So you have Pegula, who I would think would be favored stylistically against an in-form top Belinda. I just stay away. If you can find an edge, God bless you. I can't.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so Annette Kontaveit and Iga Swiatek, as the cool kids say. Mm-hmm. So for me, I want to bet Annette here. However, I am a bit concerned that I believe this is the 8th match in like 11 days for Annette, who went to the finals in that last WTA 250 prior to this, which she's done that now back-to-back before majors. I think she won the one right before the French or Wimbledon, I think. Either way. So Swiatek, hard courts, not exactly her thing. Kontaveit certainly is. This is just a stay away spot for me. I think that in most scenarios, Iga would have been a bigger favorite here, but I think because Kontaveit's been playing so well, they made this a coin flip, and I think they got it right. So that's why I'm going to ultimately stay away. And if I wasn't so concerned about Kontaveit's fitness levels with all the matches she's played coming in, I would likely even bet her at this coin flip, but going to stay away. What are your thoughts, Brad?
Yeah, I actually like Kontaveit here. Yes, she did win in Cleveland, right? And so we were a little worried about fatigue. But, she got to the U.S. Open on Monday now. It's Saturday. She only played 2 matches so far this week. So we see her 3rd match this week. So, sometimes in the first round, I might go for the fatigue fade, but I think she's definitely had plenty of time. And I don't think that fatigue or fitness is going to be an issue. And I think that Swiatek is a player that is so good on clay that she becomes overvalued on every other surface. Now, there's that 3-week grass season, right? And you can argue that she does play so well on grass. Maybe that doesn't apply there. But I do think it definitely applies in these North American hard courts. And if you watched her against Faro, she dropped down early and she was not looking herself, right? And then I don't know what she did, but she flipped the switch and then she wins the 3rd set 6-0. I didn't even really know how to rate that match. Do I do I downgrade her for starting off so slow and just looking like everything was going to fall apart, or do I upgrade her here for just basically, once it did look like she was going to fall apart, turning around, turning on the jets, and just blasting her off the court there in the third set? But still, the way that Kontaveit's been playing, I do think that she's got the power to keep up with her. Kontaveit can play offense and defense, so I think that you'll see a good job of her being attacking on her service games, and I think that she can, create some longer rallies for Swiatek when Swiatek is serving. And I do rate Annette's serve a little higher the way that they're playing right now. So I like Kontaveit.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense to it. You mentioned a good point about the overvaluing because she's so good on clay, and it makes a ton of sense. All right, so Sorribes Tormo against Raducanu. Raducanu, right? The young chick getting a lot of steam in another tournament here, another major. Look, she's good. She's fun to watch. Sorribes Tormo is like, your typical backboard. I know you got some interesting thoughts here, Spread. So what do you think?
Yeah, Raducanu is definitely a fun player to watch. Probably a little more talented too, and we'll probably expect a little more from her. And then you have Tormo, right, who was a player that we had just pegged as a clay court specialist for years, who's all of a sudden become good on hard courts. And it's just wild to see, a player that we had always just written off once this North American swing started, really becoming so good on the hard courts. Now, we look at what Tormo's done so far. She beat your girl Muhova, right? And although I don't think that Muhova's in the best form, I still rank that win highly, right? Then she wasn't problem. She didn't have any problems with Shea at all, right? Shea can against Raducanu, right? I think that Shea might be able to trouble like a younger player who's not used to all that stuff. A player like Tormo who's seen it all, it was nothing, and she just dispatched it easier. Raducanu had to qualify here. Which I think did help her bring some momentum, to beat Vogelé and Zhang. But the form there is much different than Tormo's form. Remember that Tormo made the final in Montreal, the week the 1000 event beforehand, and she lost to Pliskova there. She's been playing some great tennis. I like Tormo here to end the great story of Raducanu.
I like it. I think if you like Tormo yourself, you want to bet, not you, Spread, but anybody in general, or you want to follow Spread's advice here, I think you can wait. I feel like Raducanu is probably going to see late steam here. She just usually does. I mean, people like betting her. That's for obvious reasons, but I do think you might be able to even get a better price. She might swing to be the underdog slightly before the match actually starts. All right, so Karolina Pliskova, Aya Tomljanovic. Yeah, for me, this is my parlay group. Okay. With Opelka. So for me, Pliskova, this is a perfect storm. Pliskova does not lose often at all to backboards like Tomljanovic, and Tomljanovic does not often beat players with big serves and heavy hitting like Pliskova, at least at her elite level. I know the line's 350, but again, you pair with Opelka, you can get that at -113 together. FanDuel in New Jersey. Look, I've liked what I've seen from Pliskova now going back. I'd call it a month. Not to say obviously she's the fourth-ranked player in the world, but she loses to Teichmann, which was a weird match on many fronts in Cincy. Sabalenka, and then Georgie. It's like the player she loses to. Now Teichmann's more of a backboard, but I'd say she still hits a lot harder than Tomljanovic does. Either way, to me, this is just a pure matchup play, win-loss. I don't necessarily want to lay the games with Pliskova. But it's hard to imagine Tomljanovic is going to do much on her serve, and Pliskova should be all over Tomljanovic's serve on the other side. So for me, it's a good parlay piece with Opelka. I'm getting two big servers against two what I'd consider inferior opponents based on form at this moment. So yeah, I'm pairing them together. What do you think, Spread?
Yeah, boy, that's a nice one to pair it too. I actually probably made me could have looked at that. Pliskova 5-0 against Tomljanovic in her career, and you mentioned the reasons why. She doesn't really do the things to trouble her. Pliskova is also, just on a great run here. She loses to Georgie in Montreal, and then she loses to Teichmann in Cincinnati. Just huge runs before that. She dispatched Badosa, Pegula, Putintseva, Sabalenka, Tormo, and Isamova, and Donna Vekic in all those tournaments, right? And I think Pliskova is a player that gets undervalued because we don't think that she's going to win the tournament. We know that semifinals and finals, she really does have a tendency to really freeze up and get away from her game. Obviously, a little bit of mental there. But here's the thing: what we're betting today isn't a semifinal or a final. So just because we don't think that she can win this tournament, I think that actually gives you a little more value betting her in this match. So I do agree with you. I think that's going to be a pretty good parlay.
Cool. Yeah, we could slide over to Ash Barty and Shelby Rogers. Probably be able to talk this one quick. Barty's lost what, like one match out of her last. I mean, I'm going back. I mean, Jesus, Brett. She's lost one.
She hasn't lost a set in 8 matches.
And I mean, and if you go back even further, Fred, she's lost 3 total sets in her last 16 matches. I mean,
yeah,
it's the sample size is growing very large. So yeah, I'm at the point now where she's starting to enter with her form Djokovic area in terms of when you want to bet her, it's about motivation and how bad she wants to win. So I don't have much here, and hear my voice getting a little raspy. But what do you think here, Spread?
Yeah, I'm staying away too because you did talk about motivation, and we'll see the Barty. You know, she's not like she doesn't have that killer instinct like some other players do. So she wins the first set, then she gets up a break in the second. You won't see her actually just put her foot on the gas, and you'll see her actually kind of. She doesn't have that killer instinct. She'll win, right? But a lot of times, she might not go for that second break and just try to end the match as quickly as possible. So that's why I'm not laying the -6 here. But I would be shocked if Barty wasn't able to beat Shelby Rogers. Look at Shelby Rogers, right? A great player. She can definitely dial up the power, right? But if you do watch this match, you're going to see a quickness disadvantage by Rogers of like exponential value, right? And then the other thing that Barty's going to be able to do is keep the ball low for a taller player of Rogers that struggles, to get low, and she can just keep hammering that low slice. The second Rogers gives her something, she switches to the two-handed backhand and puts it away. I think just Barty's better in every fashion. I don't know if I'll lay the 6, but I would be very, very shocked if Barty doesn't win this in straight sets.
No, I like it. It makes a lot of sense because Barty's likely to lose matches coming up in the future, whether it's here next year, whenever, more than she's doing today. She's on just a ridiculous run. It's hard to imagine anybody would want to fade her now, but the price indicates that, right? It's high, all things considered. Okay, so last but not least, Pavlyuchenkova versus Gracheva. To me, Spread, I'm interested in your thoughts here as this is the final match. I think Gracheva here is super live. I loved how good she looked versus Badosa, and I know that Pavlyuchenkova has been really good recently. She hasn't been as good as her French Open run, but she's been, of course, winning a lot more matches than she's losing. From a form perspective, I thought it was so much more Gracheva versus how poorly it was Badosa. I thought she was really good in rallies, and she's going to get a similar player here in Pavly. Which is why I think the line's a little big overall. But what do you think, Spread?
Yeah, I would be careful about overrating that win over Badosa, who clearly isn't 100%. And she's another player, and we talked about it earlier with Karatsev, that this is her breakout year, right? I mean, this is really her first time advancing far in multiple tournaments. And you can just see her body breaking down and her level of play dropping as the summer continued. So, that's why I'm scared of jumping in on Gracheva here. I wonder how much of that win over Badosa was circumstantial and how much it was, her just being the better player here. She did have a nice little run in Chicago, however. We talked about, Kontaveit did the warm-up tournament as well last week. She did the warm-up tournament as well. She beat Kostyuk, Anna Bogdan, and Tamara Zidanzek. I think she got in there as a lucky loser, however, because she lost to Storm Sanders in the qualifying here. And then eventually she lost to Alize Cornet. And if Cornet, can beat her, I think Pavlyuchenkova is a much better version. So I'd be a little wary to jump on the dog in this match.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up some good points. I think that you can create yourself 5 if you want at like -125 in here. But you're right. There's a lot of factors that may have made that Badosa match seem almost like smoke and mirrors. But either way, yeah, I mean, I guess time will tell. But as the last nightcap of the match, yeah, it's nice that we have a little disagreement there.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so that wraps it up. Spread's best bet was Brooksby today. I like Monfils, and I like Pair and Opelka with Pliskova, -113 at FanDuel. But other than that, thanks as always, folks, for watching. Full-blown college football slate. Today I'll have some picks up there for Rump Your Bets for the night slate for college football, but we'll have some other picks from Jay and the crew earlier today. Of course, baseball from Joey Work as well. Also a little bowling action with me and Joey this afternoon. So that'll be fun. We'll keep you guys posted there. But either way, thanks as always for watching. Spread, maybe we'll hook you up with a tennis video or two for next week with the Open kind of finalizing out. And then look, we blink and here is the NFL. So yeah, we'll have content for you all weekend here. And of course, moving forward for next week as we head into NFL, head over to Rump Your Sports, rumpyourbets.com. Check us out to see what we're all about. And as always, folks, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are not already. But as always, gamble responsibly, stay safe, and run pure, folks. We'll see you next week.